There's another question. Just want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered from Stephanie. Please describe the types of strategies that can be used for each level of evaluation. So I think for this, it might actually be helpful to go back to the Guskey model, which I think is what Stephanie is referring to. And also, Stephanie and everybody, I want to let you know that because this is the first part of a 3-webinar series, the next part, which is happening on November 16, is when we're going to be going into data quite a bit more. So we'll cue that up for you at the end here. But rest assured, our next session is really going to be thinking about this exact question. How would you collect data to analyze whether or not these questions were happening? So she suggests perhaps a survey at level 1, perhaps data analysis. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by data analysis, because that's actually what you do with the data, how you look at the data. But I would agree that an example of the way you could assess level 1 would be an exit ticket or a participant survey at the end of a workshop to ask them what their satisfaction was and whether they learned, whether they liked the session. And then in that same exit ticket, you could also ask them about their learning, what stands out to you from what you learned from the session today. Another way to get at learning is to do a more traditional pre and post assessment to assess teachers before they went into the professional development. What did you know about inquiry-based science? And then afterwards, you could do another post-assessment to see if they acquired new knowledge about inquiry-based science. For level 3, which is organizational impact, you might do interviews with teachers and school administrators. You could ask the teachers, how are you receiving supports in order to plan your science lessons differently? What are those supports? You could ask the administrators, what has changed for you since the teachers went to this professional development? Are you doing anything differently in the school to accommodate the university partners? So you could collect that data through interviews. Level 4, which is implementation, I think the best way to get at teacher practice is to do observations, to actually go into classrooms and watch teachers, but we know that that can be expensive and time-consuming. So you could also get at this through surveys. You could ask teachers, which of these practices have you been able to apply in your classroom? Give me some examples. You could collect documents from teachers' classrooms. So after they've taught a science lesson, you could collect the resulting lesson plan and student work. And then level 5, which is probably the most common one, is to look at the student assessment scores. And then to also survey and interview students about their thinking about science. So has your thinking about science changed? What do you think you might do as a career now as a result of this program? So those are some examples at each of the levels of the Guskey model.
Right.
Katrina,
and,
do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, and I was just about to say, I think that's a great that was a great go through, Candice, because I think the one thing that you definitely want to keep in mind is that all of the methods that Candice mentioned, they can be used at different levels, so they're not necessarily supposed to be at either level 1 or level 4 or level 5, but it's sort of what you're after at those levels. So I think that's a big key. But I think that was really nicely done, Candice, in terms of letting folks know how they sort of ramp up in terms of the questions asked and then the data that you're trying to get or the information that you're trying to get from folks.